Welcome back. We now move to the topic of how to read and study law. So this slide is basically uh, gives you some of hints and some of the pointers on how to read and study the law. All right, court systems in PNG. You would know that PNG, we have different layers of court there. We have the Supreme Court, National Court, District Court, and that's the three-tier system of courts, and then we have the village court. So basically, let's look at the individual courts as we go through the slide. The Supreme Court is the highest court in Papua New Guinea and is provided by Section 160 of the Constitution. The special functions attached to the Supreme Court, and some of these major functions are: one, to interpret the Constitution. The power to interpret the Constitution is vested with the Supreme Court. Always note that no other court has the power to interpret the Supreme Constitution. So you might think, why is this important? Why is the Supreme Court's power to interpret the Constitution important? This is because it will protect against abuse of the Constitution. Classical example, when the Australian government with the PNG government passed the Manus Asylum Seekers Deal, basically what was happening was that Australia was forcing this problem onto Papua New Guinea. Instead of bringing those refugees seeking refuge in Australia to Australia, they were trying to process them offshore at Nauru and also in Papua New Guinea. And the opposition at the time, Bella Nama, challenged that case. He said, this is unconstitutional. We are a sovereign state. We cannot basically be slaves or harbor the processing of Australian refugees. And it went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court interpreted it and they said, yes, it's Mr. Nama, you're correct. It is unconstitutional. It's against our constitution for Papua New Guinea to process Australian refugees. And then they closed down the Asylum Seekers Center. Also, you will note Professor Koa there states that the judiciary is mandated by the Constitution to guard against any abuse or exploitation by those who are in power. Baka summarizes the role of the courts by stating the courts carry out its role of explaining the meaning and effect of some of the complex concepts of and expressions of the Constitution. And also, you would see in the case of Aveta vs. Winton, in Papua New Guinea, it has come to be accepted that the judiciary is the guardian of the Constitution. It's the protector of the Mama Law, or we can say in Pidgin and Wasman the Mama Law. Okay, the second sort of character that is given to the PNG Supreme Court is the fact that the Supreme Court can deal with all types of cases that have been before the court, so they have unlimited jurisdiction. They can deal with all manner and all forms of cases. So, and then also, it is the final court of appeal. So if you're not satisfied with the district court, you appeal to the national court. Not satisfied with the national court, you go to the Supreme Court. And it has all the powers to review all acts of the national court. To put this into perspective, think of the scenario. If Mr. Kingno was unlawfully terminated from his job as a lawyer of the government, and he was not allowed to be heard, he will file for judicial review in the national court. In the national court, if the judge decides against him, he's not satisfied with the ruling, he will appeal the matter to the Supreme Court. So basically, after being into the Supreme Court is the final sort of court of appeal, and he will have to accept the decision. All right, then the third power available to the Supreme Court is the power to review the decisions of the National Court. So basically, all decisions by the National Court can be reviewed in the Supreme Court. All right, now we're going to look at the National Court. The National Court is created under Section 1551 of the Constitution, and it has unlimited jurisdictions like the Supreme Court, and it's a court of record. So everything in the National Court is recorded. If you have time and you attend a case in the National Court, you will note that there's a speaker there, that lawyers make submissions, judges make submissions, just give decisions, and it's recorded as well. So the monetary sort of jurisdiction of the National Court is cases of 10,000 and going up. If your case is more than 10,000 or 10,000, you will have to bring it to the National Court. All right, so in PNG, the National Court is divided into different sort of specialist areas. You have the commercial track, election petition, human rights, judicial review, and mediation, and then the civil matters, Civil Court 1, 2, and 3. All right, the last sort of court, not last, but the third sort of layer of court in Papua is the district court, provided by Section 170 of the Constitution. And the district court was created when Parliament passed a specific legislation, Act of Parliament, called the District Court Act 1963. So it's presided by a magistrate, and the jurisdiction is 10,000 kina. That means that if your claim is 10,000 or less, you will be bring your case to the district court. Also, the district court basically enforces the Summary Offences Act. So all these criminal offences that are called summary offences are tried in the district court. And also the district court is responsible for conducting committal hearings. So big cases like murder, rape, armed robbery, all these cases, they will test the evidence in the district court in what you call a committal proceedings. And then they will, if they find that the magistrate finds that there's sufficient evidence, they will commit the case to the national court. All right, the last court in the PNG legal system you have is the village court. It's been established by the Village Court Act, and basically it deals with the monetary jurisdiction of 1,000 kina. However, the district court does not have the power to break marriages, solve murder cases, etc. And basically it's tasked with customary practices to solve minor disputes that arrive locally. In the district court as well, you have a branch called a local land court, and it's established by the Land Dispute Settlement Act. And then land mediators are basically appointed to deal with disputes over customary land. The basic function of land mediators is to ensure that customary land disputes are solved together, peacefully and amicably. Then you have other courts such as the coroner's court, so to hear cases on unexplained deaths, and then to the children's court will deal with cases of children under 16. All right, so having said that, we'll now move on to our final class of the day, and that is basically how to read legislation and how to read cases. Thank you.